Welcome to Friday Fantasy Football Forum, otherwise known as FFFF, otherwise known as Quad F, or otherwise known as which is the sound you make after you sit the wrong guys. So, hopefully after your visit here, we'll have a little bit less and a little bit more woo. Now let's go be the best in the land of make-believe. Alright everybody, thanks for clicking. Since this is our first edition of FFFF, I do want to put up a few disclaimers and kind of explain a little bit of how things are going to go down here. So first off, I understand this series is not for everyone. I understand that. And it's something that you're going to know either already or whether this is for you or not. So, if it's not, thanks for clicking, and I'll see you guys soon, but I'll just save you some time now and you don't need to watch the rest of this video. So, now that we've got that underway, the purpose of FFFF is to help each other as a community for the benefit of all of our teams. This is going to be a forum, hence the name Forum, to ask questions about who to start, who to sit, waiver wire pickups, all sorts of things like that, and get feedback from a large population of people instead of just listening to Matt Berry, who's mostly always wrong anyway. And with the projection system, let's face it guys, the projections are worse than smoke and tears. They're just full of flaws and they're not based on who knows what the hell they're based on. So, likewise, I'll occasionally inquire for you guys about your opinions on my teams, and everyone's going to help to get a little bit help with posts, comments, video responses are fully openly welcome, even personal messages, anything like that that you guys think you need to accomplish what you want to do here. We're called Forum for a reason, so let's keep it going. Let's keep it that way. A few disclaimers first, however. This will be under the assumption of ESPN standard scoring with occasional PPR, additional PPR comments, for lack of better words, viewpoints, foundations, whatever. So, depending on your league, please be aware to apply with discretion. Nobody can predict the future, and while we are here to help each other, your starting choices are still going to be your own decisions. So be aware and be wary that despite what the majority opinion or expectation is, will not always be correct in hindsight. That's just the name of the game. At the end of the day, take what you feel most comfortable with, and don't do something that you don't want to do just because a few strangers recommend that you should do it. This idea kinda works well in life as well. So, without further ado, let's set the background and let's get started. Unfortunately, we're starting in week 5 a little bit. I would have loved to do this earlier, but some stuff kept coming up. But at the same time, now we're deep enough where there's injuries and bye weeks, and this is when people are going to have the most questions. So, feel free to join in, tag along, and every voice is welcome. Thanks for watching, guys, and let's get to it. Oh, and I do have to mention right before, sorry, little extra cut edit in here, but since this is the first week, we may be working with some technical issues, and there's going to be some stuff to work out that as we progress over the next weeks, things are going to get better. So I'm going to recommend on this video and potentially future videos, you're going to need to full screen this thing. So if you're viewing it on your mobile device or something else, it's going to be a little bit tougher and nearly impossible to do this. And all you're going to have to go by is the sound of my voice, which I admit is not exactly the most angelic noise in the world. So, I highly recommend, for right now at least, to full screen the video, and it's going to give you the best, from here on out I should say, and it's going to give you the best experience and the best opportunities that we can all have, and it's going to just make everything better for all of us. So, now we can get to it. Alright guys, things have officially started, and since this is our first week, I just need to break down a little bit on exactly what's going on. So, as far as ESPN's concerned, I actually got 4 teams this year, which I kind of admit in hindsight is a little too many. I think 2 is kind of mandatory, and 3 is probably optimal, but I went ahead and went with 4. So, at this point I hope all of you guys have full screened the vid. Otherwise, it's going to be darn near impossible to see what you need to see, most likely. I suppose that's all up to individual differences, but at the end of the day, that's where we are right now. So, I've got 4 different leagues, and I guess in order to be applicable, I'm going to break down each of those 4, and, with my stuff that I've got going this week and, overall, so that you guys can give feedback on this, and then everyone can post their feedback on what it is that they or their questions for what it is that they have. So, This league is the TPX league, which is 10 mods and admins all rolled into one, and we just kind of have this big thing going. So at the moment I'm 3-1. I should totally be 4-0, but I got Jude last week, and this one's actually going to be a really tough week for me because all of my wide receivers are freaking on buys along with my backup quarterback, when normally I would have Roethlisberger as my number one, but he's just been really bad this year. So that puts me in a little bit of a bind, and it kind of limits my options. There's not too much I can do this week, but I do have one major question mark. Obviously, Ben versus Kevin Cobb. I'm going to go with Cobb this week and then drop Cobb after this. I picked him up only for this week. But it's my running back situation that is both amazing and hell at the same time. 3 of the guys, Matt Forte, Fred Jackson, and LaShawn McCoy, are currently all in the top 5 running backs. And then Arian Foster is just coming back, and who knows where the hell he's going to be. So I essentially have 4 top 5 running backs, and I got to sit one of them every single week. In this case, considering who I'm playing, Foster versus running backs should be amazing, along with versus Oakland, along with Jackson versus Eagles. Those are the 2 worst run defenses in the league to date, so they should have monster games. My tough question for the day in this league is, do I have Matt Forte versus Detroit or LaShawn McCoy versus Buffalo? So far, McCoy's been a little bit better, and Buffalo's a little bit worse versus the run, but McCoy doesn't necessarily run as much. So that's definitely my tough question of the day at the moment, and that's really all I have as far as question marks go this week. I've got Aaron Hernandez on the bench, and Miles Austin's also hurt. Well, he's been hurt, but he's been on the bench lately as well. So I dig where the team can go, but I don't think my odds are very good this week. I do want to mention as well with this league, if you guys notice on the points over here on the left side, that it's a little bit different. There's some decimals going on, because instead of having 10 yards equals 1 point, therefore 70 and 79 are the same, but 79 and 80 are not the same, this league just divided it both by 10. So every yard is 0.1 points. So 71 will get you 7.1, and 73 will get you 7.3. So that's a very, very cool feature that gets you what you deserve, and it also eliminates ties, barring 99% of the time at least. This league also features a 0.5 PPR, which makes guys like Foster, Forte, and McCoy, who catch a ton of balls as running backs, a little bit better than they already are. So that also leads to why I picked the wide receivers that I have, as they're just number 1 guys who pick up a ton of catches, though Brandon Marshall is obviously going to be worthless now because his quarterback is done. He'll just fill in on the bench from here on. So, that being said, I want to do this on Friday because then the waivers and trades have already gone through. So here's kind of like what my matchup is looking at the moment. Projections are absolutely hilarious on ESPN. I think they do it based on who they expect to have a better game, but the points themselves aren't exactly accurate. So they'll pick a guy who, there'll be 2, like look at the Saints receivers, for example. All 4 of them are kind of pretty close to equal as opposed to, levels and playing quality are. So when Matt Moore was hurt and Colston was hurt, Henderson was doing great. But now that they're back, they're giving him a really, really low projection when it's not like he can get that low. He might not go off or anything, but they kind of do it to give you a low number and scare you away from it more than anything else. So in this matchup, plus also with the projections, they just pick who has more check marks and not the total score. I should have the advantage in all 3 of the running backs in this case, but I'm going to get lit up on wide receivers because all of my wide receivers have a bye this week, which, they'll be good to go the rest of the year, but, that kind of sucks. And Finley, I'm hating on Finley. He's had 1 great game and 3 bad weeks, but he's still expected to do awesome, and I just don't see that happening. So anyway, that's all we've got for week 1. Let me know what you guys think about Forte versus McCoy. That sure is a tough one. And let's go on to my next league. This league is in a little bit of bad shape. I'm 2-2 at the moment, and everyone that I picked during the draft weeks, before the season started, they were looking really good. Frank Gore, Sean Green, guys like them were supposed to be really awesome. Sean Moreno was supposed to be great. Antonio Gates was supposed to be the best tight end. And so far, all of them have been worthless. Larry Fitzgerald has had 1 or 2 decent games and 1 or 2 worthless games. So nothing is really panning out for these guys, and the team is not doing nearly as well as I expected it to do. And then throw in the fact that Gates has been hurt, Moreno's been hurt, Austin's been hurt, Frank Gore's been hurt, and things just haven't been going well. So even guys like Olsen and Steve Smith, Willis McGahee, they weren't on my team to start with. Nate Washington, Eric Decker, they weren't on my team to start with. I had Peyton Manning to start with instead of Matt Stafford. So it's been a mess and it's been tough. But I'm 2-2. I'm tied for 4th, so I still am essentially in the playoff run. And, I got a chance, but it's looking grim just because everything's just been so snake-bit in this league. And the head-to-head matchup this week, it's also not looking too pretty, but that's, again, because I've got so many holes because everything's getting hurt. I don't particularly want to start any of these running backs, but I have no other options. So I've looked at the waiver wires, and the best I could do is Michael Bush or Marshawn Lynch, 2 guys that have already dropped to pick up replacements for dudes that I legitimately need, like Stafford and Greg Olsen in place of Gates and Peyton Manning, So my options are kind of limited in that regard, and I don't think things are going to be looking pretty, but that's where I'm at in this league. Let's go over to my third one, and this one I've also got a matchup versus a guy in TPX for, Super Kids, and I think this is potentially my most stacked league overall. I'm 3-1 because week 1 they all just took a major dump on me and wanted to do nothing. And this week, Eli Manning's actually a backup for Ben Roethlisberger. I got him in 2 leagues, and he sucked in both of them. But I got AP, Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles, Felix Jones, and with the exception of bye weeks and injuries, all 4 of them have been doing fairly well. With the exception, obviously, week 1, Tolbert was, career day, and Matthews has been sucking. But then my wide receivers, I think, are pretty darn good as well. Fitzgerald, Hakeem Nicks, finishing it off with Santana Moss, Plaxico Burress, and Marcus Colston. So it's got. I don't want to start Colston this week because he's still just coming back, which could be a problem. But Colston or Sproles, I'm not really sure which one to put in as the flex there this week. But we'll see where we go. Defense normally is the Ravens, though this week it's subbed in for the Bengals, which are supposed to do pretty well. And then Neil Rackers, who's also a top kicker. So I've had top running backs, top wide receivers, tight end, Vernon Davis. He was supposed to be good, but he's been sucking so far, so I'm not happy about it. But it's the best I can do at this point. So overall, the team's been doing really, really well. It is 3-1, but I think I'm going to be in great shape as far as things are concerned. And this week, I fully expect to trounce this guy. His wide receivers 5 points, 4 points, and then 6 points, 4 points for his lower positions, whereas my guys are supposed to be getting a lot more. Again, I know these projections are weak, but he's starting bad players / number 2s on the team, whereas I got top guys across the board. So I should be good to go to win in this league. And taking a gander at the standings, I'm technically tied for first place with this kid named Tomcat, even though last week in week 3 I just beat Tomcat and I crushed him out there. The reason he's up there is he scored 2 more points overall than me, and that's why he's ranked higher at the moment. But as far as all things are concerned, I'm in first place in this league, so things are hopefully looking up. I just had a really bad week 1, and that's how things are going. So this brings us to my 4th and final league, which is absolutely stacked and blowing people out. If you look at this, I'm ranked 99.9 percentile of ESPN standard leagues. I have scored, 526 points to date. I'm averaging 131 per week, which is just nuts. I've got Romo and Newton as my quarterbacks. Romo's in a bye right now, and Newton, at the moment, he's number 3 in points. I got McCoy, Forte for my running backs. Both of them are top 5. Wide receivers of Calvin Johnson, Wes Welker, both of them 1 and 2. Rob Gronkowski and Jermichael Finley, number 1 and top 10 tight ends. My defense in this league I've swapped out every week so far, but at the same time, every week I've gotten 10 or 11 points from my defense. So that's been top 10 production, or top 5 production actually. And my kicker is also at the moment the number 1 kicker in the league. So with the exception of my flex play, which can either be, I've got Crabtree, Harvin, McCluster, Holmes, and Sean Green at the moment. This week Sean Green should be really, really good against New England, The rest, McCluster versus the Colts, he could do okay. I don't really like Harvin or Crabtree, but they're just there, mostly, more than anything else. But with the exception of my flex play, everything on this lineup has been a top 5 or better to date in the league. Excuse me. Which is just absolutely asinine how much it's dominating things. And of course, as soon as I publicize that, I'm going to get a big stinker this week versus somebody else who's also in TPX. And let's just see how this is looking a little bit. Newton versus Stafford, that should be close. McCoy and Mendenhall, he better switch out Mendenhall. He's got Blount, Fred Jackson. Fred Jackson's going to have a field day. Andre Johnson's hurt. He needs to switch this guy out. Antonio Gates is hurt. He needs to switch this guy out. The Redskins are in a bye, so he needs to switch that guy out. So at the moment, it looks like I'm just really going to be trucking things. And just for a little bit of projection of where my points have been, this is the 130 bar. And everything except for one bad week, which obviously I still won, at 117, that was my worst score, has been better than that. So my averages are just going nuts. And things should be pretty good in this league. So I expect to probably go 2-2 this week due to injuries and buys, but I've got a good shot for 3-1. I think I have a slim shot for 4-0, I believe, and that's pretty much just how things are going. So a couple funny things with this league though. This Team Hill, who's number 1 in the East at 4-0, I've looked at his trend log. The dude has 0 acquires, 0 drops, 0 trades, 0 lineup roster changes. He hasn't clicked back into this league since the draft started. He's not even come back in, yet he's 4-0, and he's only scored 386 points. So he's averaging like 92, 94-ish points a game, which is not really that good. He's just gotten really lucky at being 4-0, which I find absolutely hilarious that he's up there. So, but as we can see over here, 526, 406, 382, you know, all of these guys could be crushing in the East. I'm in really tough divisions in all of my freaking leagues, which is really, really frustrating to say the least. And going back to the second league, which is 2-2, there was one thing I think that I thought was really funny. Whatever. The guy we got here in first place in the East, Team Grubbs. If you look at the guy who was 0-4 in the West, the division I'm in, he scored 379 points, which is more than the guy who's first place in the East. So once again, I'm just stuck in a really tough division, which is, you know, part of the reason I am 2-2, despite the fact that I beat the guy ahead of me over here, and you know, I had a really, really unlucky loss to somebody in the East, but that's just the way it works. You know, it's just a really, really tough division going on in that one, and of course, that's the one I'm in. I'm in the tough division in all of my leagues, but that's where we stand from here on. At this point, I've already made my waiver pickups and trades and crap like that this week, so there's nothing really to look into there. Otherwise, if I had some questions or something I needed to do, you know, I'd go into there and get some feedback from you guys. But that's the look at this garbage. Even in this league, the lowest guy in the East, who's 1-3, has scored 1 less point than the guy who's number 1 in the West. And of course, I'm in the East. Why am I in the hard divisions in every single freaking league? I just barely beat this guy. This is the guy who beat me, who had lucky as hell week 1. I just beat Tomcat, so I should be ahead of him, but he scored 2 more points overall. And then the East just kind of sucks. It's like, what the hell? Or the West just kind of suck. I don't understand, so I'm just snake bit all over the place. I can't get lucky even in freaking fake stuff. But that's where we stand on the first week of FFFF. So if you guys have any comments, questions, opinions, you know, let me know what it is that you guys are thinking, and feel free. In fact, the whole point of this is I encourage you guys to post up video responses or comments with your questions below, and just have everybody giving everyone feedback and kind of working out, you know, what do we think is going to be the best way to go. On one hand, now that we're in bye weeks, options are a little bit less limited, but that's just going to mean that there's 1 or 2, you know, micromanaging decisions that can really be beneficial to your team and can give you the win. So sometimes all it takes is 1 point, and sometimes you got to swap out that kicker or that defense every single week for somebody who's just going to have a better matchup. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully all of us are going to get all the wins we can from here on out, And I'll be looking forward for our feedback and our comments. And let's kick some fantasy ass, boys. Take it easy.